how's the off season been? What have y'all been up to?
Well, sure, really for us, we kind of dove straight into it immediately after the end of last season. My first goal was to just get these guys, some stability, and give these guys a chance by trying to incorporate, saying a holistic all-season program. And so, really, that first Monday after we finished up last year, we just jumped straight into it, and we haven't taken a break since.
Yeah. Did y'all play a spring game, or do y'all still are y'all playing a spring game?
Yeah, we played a spring jamboree last week. It was on this past Friday. We played Tarrant and Carver Birmingham, and so we finished up, like I said, on a good note and got some good work in. And like I said, we was able to identify some players and some guys who, I'm saying, we thought could play, and then we also found some guys that kind of emerged that I'm saying we kind of had some question marks about. So for me, I think spring is always a good thing to kind of saying see where you are going to the summer, and then from there you're gonna make your improvements.
Yeah. Who are some of those guys that you saw good things from that maybe you saw emerge a little bit?
Yeah, a couple of guys that we saw emerge was Russell Jones. He's a guy that came back to our football program that wasn't with us last year. He plays defensive line, and he's really explosive off the football, and it's going to be tough to, I'm saying, to block and that sort of thing right there. And we also had another newcomer, Quentin Rafford, who was able to do some really good things. Runs very well, highly explosive, and I'm saying make some plays in that spring jamboree as well. So I know we got those two guys, and I said there's a list of other guys, like I said, that kind of emerged for us, and so we're really excited about some of our underclassmen and even some of the older guys too that I'm saying rejoin our football program. So we're looking forward to getting started in the summer.
Yeah. From last year to this year, like, just year one to beginning year two, what growth have you seen just collectively in the guys you've got on that roster? What have you seen from them that is kind of trending upward, is getting better, that kind of thing?
Well, I think really the mindset, like I said, with that all-season approach, is more than just the physical part of it. So we really been trying to dive into the mental aspect of, I'm saying, them as people, students, saying being an overall student athlete, their approach to being in the classroom, outside the classroom, but more importantly, just as teammates, how they relate to each other. And so I can't pinpoint the specific date when it changed, but we did see it right before spring training when we kind of got together as a coaching staff. We said, man, we think these guys are bought in or whatnot. And so they really haven't been resisting a lot of different things we've been implementing from weight training to just the approach to, practice schemes and regimens and those sorts of things. And so I think it's really been more of the mindset. I think they're more disciplined, locked in and focused, and ready to come to work each day.
Yeah. Y'all played a lot of young guys last year. Like how many eighth graders, freshmen did y'all play last year, do you think?
So you guys, I stopped counting at one point. I think the last time I had counted, I want to say we probably had maybe 30 ninth graders on the roster, maybe 15 eighth graders. And then even when you add that sophomore group from last year, I think it was like another 20, 25 sophomores. And I want to say last year maybe had about 8 or 9 juniors. You know what I'm saying? So we were extremely young, really, really in a rare situation, so to speak. And so now, I mean, we're still going to be young. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, the eighth grade is only going to be a ninth grade this year, and ninth is only going to be 10th or whatnot. And even with some of those guys come back to the program, now you're looking at football experience, or whatnot. But the good thing is, there haven't been a lot of wasted days. And that's the one thing that we've been preaching to them about, just being consistent, and just make the most out of whatever time that you do have, and just make sure you're stacking days.
That's it. Well, I mean, you called it a rare situation, and I'll say this. Last year, I think people probably got caught up following how the season went for Huffman. Obviously, it was a struggle, but I can't remember if y'all played on a Thursday night that last game against Parker or what it was. I just remember watching it from home, and I'm watching it for, I mean, honestly, some of the same reasons other people were. Were y'all gonna score? Obviously, it didn't happen, but I'm watching this last drive where like I guess it was like a shortened fourth quarter or whatever. But I'm watching these guys that you did have on the field, and I'm seeing fight. I'm seeing them clawing, and I'm seeing them just like, I mean, just get up to the ball, snap the ball, let's go, let's get this ball down the field. Where in a ninth, 10th game of the year, after it's been a struggle, you see a lot of guys these days maybe maybe kind of, they kind of throw it in, they quit, they slow down, they're not really giving effort. And these guys were going down the field like that was the drive of the season. I don't know if you saw it that way, but just kind of take me through the guys that finished out the year and just kind of, where their mindset was in terms of, just trying to improve, trying to get better and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, we told those guys, you know, what I'm saying with that very unique situation that we encountered, you know, what I'm saying as far as what we inherited, you know, what I'm saying trying to put the basically together season in 7 weeks, you know, that's I'm saying pretty much impossible, or whatnot. And so we just told those guys, man, you know, just fight through and just find a way to get a little bit better each and every day, regardless of whatever happens, and just to find a way to finish, you know, because our biggest goal for our last year was just to finish regardless of whatever happened. And then I just simply told them before you make any decision, as far as the sport, the school, the program, whatever the case may be, then from that point, just give us a chance, give me 3 weeks. We'll jump into the off season, but specifically about, I say, finishing that the season or the game last year, it was more about just more so just mindset and just finishing what you started. And I think that was really just the biggest thing. And like the guys that we did finish with, they did buy into it. Was it easy? Absolutely not. Whatnot was it, you know what I'm saying, devastating? No, of course. But the thing is, you know, I'm saying everybody, you know, in life can't finish. And then I think, well, what these guys are saying this spring, the ones that did finish, you know, they are having success in you know, saying the all-season program. They had success, you know, saying in the spring jamborees and the scrimmages. And I think that's attributed to, you know, saying that characteristic, that trait that we really try to instill in them of just finding a way to finish. You know, and then, so I think those guys are definitely having some reap some benefits from that.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like they proved something to themselves that like, hey, I can do this, whatever trials, whatever adversity I face, I can get through it and I can flourish once I get through it.
Absolutely.
So I know you were at Hewitt Trustful as an assistant for a bit, right?
Yeah, that's correct. From 2015 to 2017, I started as the running backs coach and co-offensive coordinator and receivers coach.
You didn't have many bad players there, did you?
No, and we definitely had some good ones and you know, all throughout those 3 years right there. Great coaching staff, great community, had some really good players and just overall, I'm saying great atmosphere. I'm saying for high school football.
Yeah. And then obviously like I think you spent was it 1 year at Central Tuscaloosa before you took the Huffman job?
I was there for 3 years as the head coach at Central.
3 years. 3 years. My
Yeah,
bad.
3 years, and previous year before that, I served as the head coach and Wayne and offensive coordinator.
Okay. What about taking the Huffman job? Like take me through that process. Like how did it come about for you and what was attractive about it to you to want to make that move back up to the Birmingham area?
Well, really for me, like I said, I've always looked at Huffman outside in. I think like a lot of coaches, even like I told the administration, the players when I first got here, you know, talent's never been an issue here at Huffman. You know, that's never been the case where you watch them or you coached against them, whatever the case may have been. And so for me, I was, you know, saying temporarily in transition. And then for me, just being a person and a man of faith, my first goal was when I saw the job had opened, I just simply just honestly had prayed and said, you know, if this is something that you allow me to do, you know, open the door. But if it's not, then you know, just keep it closed. And then so for me in this particular situation, once it opened, I just really just took it step by step. And my goal was just to inquire, get some information. But I really just kind of saw a situation where there was a lot of hurting kids, and they were really in need of stability. And then so that was for me, that was something that kind of attracted me to the job more so than coming in and trying to win immediately. 'Cause I knew that wouldn't be the case. But it's more about, I'm saying, kind of putting your feet down to the ground, establishing, I'm saying, some consistency for these kids, and then over time, you will see some results.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
I'm pretty partial to Huffman. I grew up at Huffman Methodist Church, right down the street from you guys, and so I've always been partial over there. When I was in high school at Hewitt Trustful, I mean, this is when Justin Tubbs was playing basketball at Hewitt Trustful. Huffman was unreal. Stanley Robinson, Demetrius Jemison, they were
Yeah.
just unbelievable. And so I've always had a soft spot for Huffman, and people who haven't gone to a game at Huffman, the facilities, the complex, the stadium, it's one of my favorite places to go. And honestly, like you get there like maybe an hour to 30 minutes before kickoff, that sunset going down over Birmingham
Yeah.
that you can see from that back end zone. It's picturesque. It's a great place. How do you kind of uh, how do you assess what the I guess the cliche word is culture, but how do you kind of assess where that was when you got there and where you're trying to take it now?
Well, I mean, truth be told, I mean that wasn't much of a culture, saying within the locker room and within the football program for a number of different reasons. Nothing. I mean, we're not going to be specific about it, but saying, but just a culmination of a lot of different things. But so the first thing coming in was just teaching these guys how to relate to one another. Because I've seen so many locker rooms and so many teams that's been able to be successful, and then some teams that had great talent that wasn't successful, but it had everything to do with that locker room and really creating that family atmosphere. And then some of the teams I've been the most successful on with as a player, as a coach, those guys they got along. Not saying everything was all rainbows and say unicorns and kumbaya, but saying there was a general healthy respect for one another.
Yeah.
And the players had, say it was a healthy relationship, and they went to battle, and they went to war for one another. And then there's been some teams and some programs I've been in where you had immaculate talent, but you had lack of leadership, lack of respect for one another, lack of guidelines and rules and things such as that, and you struggle or you underperformed and different things such as that. So that's been the first goal, just and that really happens over time, And I heard someone speak about it at a coaching clinic back in January, and then I was kind of feeling that way when he spoke about discipline and culture. A lot of times people
Yeah.
come in, they say discipline, 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 but you can't come in and discipline a kid or discipline a player when they don't even know you. What I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm saying sometimes takes time. And I think maybe sometimes we can kind of forget about the human aspect of the building relationships. And I mean, there are no shortcuts for that as far as getting to know, saying that individual kid, that person, who they are, what they have going on, and that ultimately, saying determines, saying how we relate to them. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be soft on them. That doesn't mean that we're going to, give them any shortcuts of thing of that nature. That just means that, hey, I'm going to understand where you're coming from, but I'm still going to hold you to a standard and hold you accountable.
Yeah. Is building relationships, is that maybe the most important part of leadership for you? What are kind of the best leadership traits for you?
I think the biggest thing with leadership is consistency. Yeah, I think consistency is number one, and really even for me, I think where it kind of drove home for me, I was at a family function back in December, and I was speaking with an older cousin of mine, and he happens to be a minister, a former coach, and an educator and that sort of thing. And he said, with your situation, number one, it's going to take prayer. Number two, it's going to take a lot of hard work. But I think the thing that he drove home with me is that we're raising boys to men, and then it just kind of gave me that old school feeling where how I was raised by my father and say a lot of saying grandparents and older men that were in the community and a lot of my coaches. And so I think the biggest thing is being consistent and being firm with them. You have to let them know, hey, I say what I mean what I say, but it's all coming from a place of love. And so I think that's really the biggest thing with leadership.
Yeah. Let's talk on field specifics. Like, do you know returning guys? Like, do you have a feel for returning starters on offense, defense, that kind of thing, or is everything open with having a bunch of young guys?
Well, the offseason was definitely fluid, so we did want to create competition. Some of that competition was recruiting new members to the football team. I'm saying because I mean, even just with the school itself, there's a lot of talent. I mean, the potential is almost unlimited, so to speak, with the zone that we have and just the potential within our feeder programs. And so the first thing was say recruit your own hallways, recruit the sports that you have here at Huffman, and try to get some of those guys to come back, and then at the same time develop the guys who were returning. And so we did have some guys that were coming back, but we just simply told them they said you have to work. So with that being said, going to the spring, we were able to kind of see some guys as they started developing, emerging, saying for some certain spots. But then, like I say, throughout the whole spring, there were several positions, specifically at the running back position and even at the receiver spot. There was a lot of competition where things were pretty much open. Kind of same thing in the secondary. Like I said we had, saying one or two guys that we knew that, saying we're going to be kind of a staple. But then again, Like I said, we left it open for competition and guys that were just kind of coming back to the program, and that's really where we are. Where you know, so we do have some guys that are holding down some certain spots at the quarterback position. You know, we had a kid named Justin Nelson who played point guard, and he last played a couple of years ago, and he's definitely going to be a huge part about what we do within our football program from a leadership standpoint, character standpoint, just being an overall student athlete, and even production on the field. So we're expecting, let's say, a lot of good things for him this upcoming year, holding down that quarterback position. Even at the running back spot, we have three guys that's in rotation right now, and they're all solid. They do you know, a number of different things where we have one you know, who's more of a power back, but he's also elusive in space and he can line up as a receiver. We have a second running back who catches the ball well in space, but he's also more of a scout back. And then you have third back who's just all around, you know, where he's good between the tackles and he can bounce it and get out of space as well. And so I think they all going to bring something unique and different to the table, which is also going to allow us to have some versatility to use them in some other spots too on both sides of the football since you have three guys into the rotation. So
Wow.
we're definitely excited about that. Even with the receiver position, we have a couple of older guys and even some young guys you know, who played on the JV role and even at the middle school level last year who could really go. And I really do believe even saying what we have right now and as we move forward, I mean, we have some really good skill guys who can compete with, I'm saying some of the best guys that are out there. And then even with our offensive linemen, those guys have, man, put in a lot of work this entire offseason was just getting simply functionally strong within the weight room, just you know, saying developing their body, their quickness, their agility. And so, you know, saying we're you know, saying excited about where these guys are, and at the same time where we're able to build going to the summer with that position. And then when we move to the defense side of the ball, like I say, I mentioned Reginald Jones, but we also had a couple of, let's say, returning guys who actually surprised me. You know, once I looked at the film and I kind of looked at the first couple of days of practice, and it's like, man, these guys are kind of moving. I say moving pretty well, but I wasn't really sure if it was real or not. You know, sometimes when you compete against each other, I'm not saying things can look a certain way, but you're just not really sure. So you line up against someone else, and then when I cut the film on Friday night and in both scrimmage games, man, I saw a lot of good things where guys were moving well. Guys were getting to their spots, they were getting to their locations. I know that there's still some things that we got to kind of polish up or not, but I can say that the guys were in position to make plays. And then saying where the mistakes were, whether it was slightly being out of position or if it was just a wrong shoulder or a wrong technique, those things can easily be fixed throughout the course of the summer.
Yeah. Let's talk about the fall. I'm looking on another screen at your schedule. So y'all are 6A Region 6. Non-region schedule looks like you open first two games are at home against Midfield and Columbia. Who is Columbia? I don't know
All right, so
Columbia.
Columbia's they're a 6A school out of Huntsville. And then like I say, just being realistically speaking, because we were basically rebuilding the program and essentially start from scratch. You know, our goal was to just kind of build it at a point to where we knew our kids were, and whatnot. And I think everybody has to assess that program, assess their kids, and be honest with yourself and say, hey, this is who we are, this is where we are, whatnot, and build for not only for right now, but also for the future. I mean, we're gonna have plenty of tough games in the region, and the region's gonna speak for itself, or whatnot. And so, like I say, before you get to the region, you just want to give yourself a chance to, you know, saying, so have some quality reps, have some success on both sides of the ball, and just simply be competitive. Is, you know, saying the first goal, and then once you get the region play, you know, it is what it is, and you know, those guys, they are who they are, and it's going to be competitive week in and week out with every single team that we play.
Absolutely. Those other non-region games looks like September 27th at Winona and wrap up the season November 1st at Fairfield. And then, yeah, you alluded to it, 6A Region 6. I mean, they added Mountain Brook to this region, I think. Uh, not bad. So you've got Clay Chalkville. You guys, I'm just going alphabetical order here. Clay Chalkville, Huffman, Mountain Brook, Oxford, Pell City, and then the valleys, Pinson and Shades. That's a difficult region.
Oh, absolutely, and really, honestly, like even when I looked at this job in particular, And really, when you look at any job that comes open, I think what's kind of happened with the association when they created Class 7A and the way they're doing the regions, there's always going to be tough opponents in every region. And really, as a coach, when you look at it, there's always going to be a top 1 and 2 or a top 1, 2, and 3. And that's just kind of the way it is, where some of these programs have been established for a number of years. Um, and so really just had to go out there and just compete. And you had to really just, I've been telling our guys that we had to focus on us. Like I say, and then the biggest thing for us, I said, well, we are not last year's team. You guys are not last year's players. And then really what we had to focus on is just us individually staying focused on how we can improve and looking ourselves in the mirror and just say, how can I be the best person and the best player I can be? And then really, you're playing, each game on a Friday night or Thursday night, or the case may be, and you really don't know what can happen. Like literally anything can happen, once you take care of your responsibilities, your assignments. And then, that's the first thing I told them. I said, guys, I said, once you go through an all-season program, I said, that's really where your confidence is going to come from. I'm saying when you get ready to line up against an opponent, when you know that you put in just as much work as the next man, and then you go from there, and then just give it everything you got. And then if you give it everything you got, and then trust your training and believe in your coach and believe in yourselves, you don't know what can happen, and then just leave it on the field.
That's right. With the guys you've got coming back, with the guys that you've seen so far in the spring and how they've been working out, scheme type stuff that you run, what do you think people should expect to see from Huffman this fall?
They're definitely going to see a tough, competitive football team. We do pride ourselves on being tough and being physical. Not saying that we're going to just impose our will on anyone, because toughness falls in a lot of different categories. Toughness sometimes means how do you respond when something does not go your way. Because chances are, whether it's in life or in the game of football, something's not going to go your way. And I think we definitely found that out, this past Friday in both games, where you had some flags or some plays that were called back, or some penalties, or saying some big plays. Even the second game they were giving up. And then my thing is that what I want to see was how are our guys going to respond. And then we definitely responded. They did fold in the tent. Responding with, saying making some plays of our own, whatnot. And then, like I say, in the Jamboree game, they're really just looking for that, looking for some guys to compete, looking for some guys to give us effort. And then whatever technical errors that we may have, whether it's in the scheme or what is a position or whatever the case may be, we can go back and easily fix those. But we can definitely look for Huffman being, saying, a tough, competitive, hard-nosed football team.
Absolutely. There was a time, I don't have it pulled up, but it's, back in the probably 70s, 80s. Huffman was let me scroll down and maybe I can find it. They had some years 1985, they go 11-4. The 2001 team was 13-1, 2000, 12-1. Huffman, I don't think, has had a winning season since 2005 or something like that. And I know it's a slow burn, right? Like you're trying to build something, but with that consistency, with those leadership qualities, with those relationships built, you've already talked about guys coming back to the program that maybe took a year off, a year or two off, that kind of thing. What ultimately, I'm not going to put a year on it because I hate in interviews. Well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I just, for whatever reason, hate that question. But at some point down the road, what do you think Huffman as a football program can be?
Program can definitely be highly competitive. I'm already looking at, like I said, what we have right now, what's emerging, and then even with our feeder pattern, with our feeder program, how we kind of we really relaunched that program at the same time too. And there's a ton of talent at those levels. Some of the different things we've been doing is building relationships with our feeder programs, all the way even down to our little leagues. We're identifying who these guys are at an early age. Saying, they already live in our zone, that are going to be going to our middle schools, saying, they have some type of connection to Huffman. That's been the biggest thing, because like I said, it's all about relationships. And then once you take care of the program at the high school level, and then just show, saying, vested interest into them as people, whether it's recruiting, getting players recruited, exposure, make sure they have a good quality experience, and even surround them with good quality coaches, saying parents and players will stay and remain in the program. That's really the biggest thing, and the biggest goal for Huffman is to just take care of what we do have. And then once we do that, I say, you look at 2, 3 years or 4 or 5 years, whatever the case may be, there's enough talent here to be competitive year in and year out. And then the rest will be just, just on the field performance each and every Friday night.
Absolutely. And I can't say it enough. So I'm looking at so folks, especially around here that we would know in region, like okay, people who are got kids or fans of Shades Valley, Mountain Brook folks, Oxford. I know that's a little bit of a drive, but all three of those region games, October 4, October 18, October 25th, those are at Huffman. That stadium, I can't say enough about it. It's one of my favorite places in Birmingham to go. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll reveal my top five places I like to cover a game, but I feel pretty confident that Huffman would be in that list for me. And I can't say enough about that place and just how incredible that facility truly is. So hopefully some folks will come out and see what you guys are doing there and what you're building there. And I wish you a successful 2024 and can't wait to see you guys.
I appreciate it. Like I said, yeah, the facilities are top notch. That's one of the first things that stood out to me. And one of the great things that we do have going right now is Coach Ward being our athletic director. We have similar visions, so we're definitely aligned with some things that we've already put in place for game day atmosphere and culture. Everybody says that word culture, but a lot of it, what I'm saying, even that's it's really more about the environment that you create and that you establish. So then we've really been really just getting started with building relationships with student base, cheer, band, alumni, and so we have a lot of great things that's on the table and that's upcoming for later on the summer, later on the fall to bring that community aspect back to Huffman and whatnot, and then part of it too is putting saying decent or quality product on the field, and that was one of the biggest things that we want to do. Just starting off with the spring is just to make it look like football, and that's why I told the guys, I said you should look like football players on the way that you dress, the way that you carry yourselves, and people can they'll know whether or not you're disciplined based off of are you lined up? Saying, do you look like you have an idea or a clue of what's going on, and then do you fly around and run to the football and then respond to your coaches? And I think that we're definitely checking off those different things to make it a good, saying fan experience, a good product. A good environment, and then just simply be competitive. And of course, you're not going to win every one, but we don't necessarily talk about wins and losses. And then you hear Nick Saban, one of the greatest coaches ever, hardly ever talked about actually winning games, but are we doing the
Yeah.
things necessary to actually put yourself in a position to get the results that you want? And I think that's what we're definitely emphasizing right now. But even like I say, as far as getting the fans back into it, I say it's more about game day environment, making it family and friend oriented, and I think it's going to be really nice for our alumni, our student base, and everyone that's going to be saying 10 night games this upcoming fall.
That's awesome. That fires me up, coach. I'm excited to see it.
We appreciate it. Looking forward to it too.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you joining and talking about some Huffman football and excited to see all this fall and wish you guys a lot of luck in 6A.
We appreciate it. We're looking forward to it. We'll take these 2 weeks off and then get right back to the grind starting in June.
Grind never stops. Thank you, coach.
And we appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.